Doctora, en sus manos está Colombia.
Ingrid Betancourt was a Colombian senator running for president in 2002 when she was abducted by the largest rebel group in Colombia, known as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. She spent 6 brutal years in captivity, something that changed her perspective on life.
I think that before my abduction, I would be demanding, impatient, probably humiliating people around me when things are not the way I wanted, very bossy. Now I really strive in being very respectful and understanding the value of working in team, and thinking that if we can bring to people this certainty that things can change, it's contagious and things get moving.
But don't mistake her humbleness and calm manner as a lack of determination. Today, she is taking on perhaps one of the toughest challenges, running for president in Colombia's May elections. The election season in Colombia is wide open, with more than 20 candidates vying for attention. President Iván Duque will not be running for re-election because of term limits. His right-wing government faces some of the lowest approval ratings of his presidency. Colombia's economy has been hit hard by the pandemic. Social tensions have been rising over unemployment and inequality, and voters may express their discontent when they head to the polls.
En primer lugar, firma la doctora Ingrid Betancourt, candidata a la presidencia de la República.
When Betancourt announced her presidential bid in January, she said she would seek the nomination through a recently formed coalition of centrist parties called the Center Hope Coalition, campaigning as an anti-corruption candidate. This means not only fighting the abuse of office for private gain, but also asking people to reflect on how common citizens accept bribery in their day-to-day.
Freeing Colombians from the abduction of corruption. I think that our corrupt system has really taken a toll on all 51 million of Colombians. People can't work properly in a dignifying way. They have to be or bandits and drug traffickers, illegal, or they have to be informal. And being informal is difficult because you are always under the abuse of the authority, of people that want to take advantage of you. And mostly women are working in this field. And it's just, I mean, corruption is something that we think in abstract that it's just money that flows somewhere else. But in a very practical way, it's our children, half of them in Colombia, that have no breakfast every day. It impacts everything, their capacity to learn, their childhood, the happiness they're entitled to have in childhood. And then when you're an adult, having lived through this system, it just changes your brain. I mean, many Colombians feel that corruption is part of our DNA, that we are corrupt because that's how we are, that drug trafficking is something that's not so bad, and that we pay bribes and we accept to steal or to trick and that's part of our idiosyncrasy.
And she is standing by her staunch no corruption line, no matter the costs.
Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres.
Less than a month into her campaign for the nomination, and during a televised debate, she gave the coalition an ultimatum to banish a fellow candidate for his alleged ties to a political machine. When the coalition responded to the demands with silence, Betancourt said she would step away from the coalition and run as an independent with the party she founded called Green Oxygen. The gutsy move is called hasty by some political analysts. There is the belief that coalitions are needed to go up against the current frontrunner in the polls, former Bogotá mayor and presidential candidate Gustavo Petro. The left-wing populist, Petro, is leading the polls with less than 30% of the votes. The rest of the candidates trail behind with less than 20%. The presidential election on May 29th is most likely headed towards a runoff on a later date, as a winner would have to receive a simple majority. Despite what some see as setbacks, Betancourt is betting on the dynamics of politics, that things can turn on a whim. She is in campaign mode, as if diving back into her past life as a politician before her captivity, meeting voters in campaign rallies or even one-on-one. It is safe to say most people know her. She was a popular senator and a presidential candidate before being taken hostage during a campaign in one of Colombia's war zones. During her years of captivity, she was the face of political hostages.
Ingrid est en danger de mort imminente.
With a double nationality, France took an active role in trying to negotiate her release.
En imágenes, Ingrid Betancourt descendiendo y abrazando a su madre, Yolanda Pulecio.
Her rescue in July 2008 was televised. It was a top-secret operation, as if taken from a movie, where guerrillas were duped in releasing her and 14 other hostages. Since then, she has been spending most of her time abroad in France with her family.
When you are with Colombians, I mean, it's...
But she says that time away from Colombia's bitterly divided political scene will help her have a fresh perspective, and more importantly, helps her run outside of the establishment.
I think that Colombia has been a very polarized country. I see my companions in the coalition, they have difficulties to talk to other people because the war has been intense. They have deep scars, enmities, and they judge and are judged very harshly. By being away for so long, I come here with no agenda. I'm not against anyone in particular. I'm just against the system. And I don't hate anyone. I just want to work with everybody, but in a different way. I want us to make sure that the way we get into power is not the usual way. In Colombia, we have had for decades to choose from the lesser of two evils, extreme right, extreme left. And for me, they are exactly the same. And they do the same. They have this system of buying votes, of putting people in the administration and using them as leverage to get votes from their families, from the others, or deviate funds that belong to the Colombians in order to pay their own campaigns. They accept money from dark sources, people that have been stealing or killing or drug trafficking, and it doesn't matter for them because for them the end justifies the means. We have to change this.
According to a 2019 study measuring Latin America and the Caribbean by German-based association Transparency International, Colombia is the 4th country in the region with the highest corruption rates, following Mexico, Dominican Republic, and Brazil. The study said 40% of Colombian citizens had been offered some sort of bribe in the last 5 years. And when it comes to transparency in politics, it seems like a faraway goal. Since 2011, the National Electoral Council of Colombia encourages candidates to share their financial stats to the public. But more than a decade later, only 13% of the country's candidates for Congress care to share the source of their finances.
No más.
Betancourt thinks Colombians are expressing a need for a cultural shift and a deep interest in changing the status quo. She points to 2021's national strike, a series of protests by citizens that went on for more than a month. The main driver was discontent with corruption, unemployment, and inequality.
30 years ago, when I was beginning doing politics, I would go to the same places, the same neighborhoods, and I would talk with probably their parents. And when I would try to talk them into supporting politics and change, and the answer was always, no way, politicians are all corrupt. We won't get into that trap. We don't want to have anything to do with politics. Now I get to these people, young people, and I ask the same question. Why don't you get into politics?
For that change, Betancourt says a cultural shift is necessary, one where citizens commit to root out corruption in their own daily lives. She has high hopes that citizens are up to the challenge. Betancourt voices a remarkable admiration for humanity, something that may seem surprising coming from a woman who has lived through some of the darkest aspects of the human experience.
I think that we are all victims, even the corrupt guys or women. We are all victims of the system. Sometimes I think that they didn't have any other option to succeed. And I really believe that we all have inside of ourselves light, and that if we can tune ourselves to that light, we can change. I changed. I know that people around me have changed. The world needs us to change quickly because we have climate change and it's really an urgency. So I think that if we bet on our capacity to overcome the darkness in each of us, yeah, reconciliation is the path, definitely. Union, yeah, working together, believing in each other, confiding in each other. It's a change of mind.